Today we're checking out this tiny microphone from Elgato, which might be a great choice for beginner creators and people looking to upgrade their audio working from home. Before we get started, you might have noticed that my room looks a little bit different than before, and that's because I'm in the middle of renovating this space, so hopefully I'll have a whole video about that in the near future. But for now, if my lighting isn't perfect or if it's a bit messy and stuff in the background, ignore it, because that will be changing soon. This is the Elgato Wave Neo. It's a small USB-C condenser microphone designed for live streaming and content creation. Coming in at £90, it has a built-in headphone jack, an included desktop stand, and opens access to Wavelink software so you can have professional sounding audio in a simple plug-and-play setup. If I remember correctly, the Wave Neo is designed to sound almost exactly the same as the Wave 3 microphone. Both sound fantastic, but there is a £50 difference between the two. So later on, I will be talking about the difference between those two microphones and what's best for you. But before then, if you do decide to get a Neo, what do you actually get in the box? So in the recycled cardboard box, you obviously get the microphone itself, as well as the plate for the desktop stand. You get the riser for the desktop stand, a USB-C to USB-A cable, some hardware to build the stand and attach to the microphone, and finally, some paperwork. The microphone also has the ability to attach to arms like the one I'm using right now, because this has included with it a 3/8, a 5/8, and also a 1/4-20 adapter. And as you can hear, this is exactly what the Wave Neo can sound like, and it sounds pretty great, especially for the price, the size, the quality of this microphone. More than good enough for live streaming, content creation, and working from home. But the one thing I would suggest is to try and get it a little bit closer to your mouth. I've made lots of videos about microphone setups and stuff, and it's always going to sound better the closer you get it to your mouth. So if you can afford it and have a budget, or a little bit later on down the line have a budget, get a microphone arm for it, because it'll go from sounding like this, which is obviously picking up a little bit of the space that I'm in, a little bit of reverb and echo, but if you get it close to your mouth, you're going to get a bit more bass and clarity and just cleanliness to the overall audio sound of this microphone. Something I should probably point out is that the Wave Neo in that previous clip has a few audio filters on it, and it's not me trying to deceive you and make you think this sounds better than it does. It's more that if you set up this microphone correctly, it compares quite well to the Wave DX that I was using. And obviously the Wave DX needs an interface and like an XLR cable and stuff to set it up, so this setup is going to cost more. But if you're a beginner or just want something like to work from home, this can sound pretty great, especially if you are connected to a computer and using it through the Wavelink software, which I'll talk about later on. But obviously, you want to hear what this sounds like straight out the box. So if I take off all the filters, this is what it sounds like, which obviously sounds a little bit different than with all the filters and stuff on. It's less clear, it's less punchy, it's not quite as loud, but as far as microphones go, especially in this price range, it sounds really decent straight out of the box. And obviously, as I just mentioned, you can add filters and stuff to it to make this sound even more professional than before. So most people who are just like using this for streaming or whatever are going to be more than happy enough with the quality of the audio. Something I really appreciate about the Wave Neo microphone is the fact that I can just use it with different devices. So if you've got like the latest iPhone with the USB-C input, or you've got an Android phone with USB-C, you can basically take a USB-C to USB-C cable, plug it into the Wave Neo, and use this microphone on your phone and maybe on a tablet or whatever. But it means that you can just have a travel setup for easy content. So if you want to make TikToks on your phone or whatever, or do like a live stream or a podcast, or you just want to take business calls when you're traveling in a simple way, obviously this works really well. You don't get any of the filters, you can't use like compressors and limiters and EQs and stuff. You just get the raw sound of the microphone. But as you can hear, still pretty great, and it's going to sound way better than using the inbuilt audio from your device. Speaking of sounding good, I should probably do a couple of demonstrations of this microphone in different scenarios so you can understand how it copes with different issues. Because obviously, this is designed for streaming and working from home, and a lot of that involves keyboard and mice and other external noise, which on cheaper microphones might not sound very good. So let's do some tests to show you how this microphone copes with issues. Starting with off-axis rejection. For those of you that don't know what that is, basically it's how well a microphone avoids noise coming from like the sides or behind, because obviously the capsule on this microphone is the front, so you don't want sound coming from different directions, whether you've got like loud pets or noisy neighbors or just other things happening in your house. So basically, obviously this sounds great and gets picked up really well from in front of the microphone, but if I move off to the side and start speaking like this, how well does it get picked up now? Because obviously this isn't necessarily always a bad thing, but if you can't hear things from the side, it means that your audio, when you're sat in front of it and close like this, is going to sound cleaner and better and not have any distractions or unwanted sounds coming from external sources. Forgot the word there. The second test I like to do is something called a plosive test. And basically a plosive test is how well the microphone copes with air hitting the capsule of the microphone, which happens a lot when you say words that have P's and B's in them, because obviously to say those letters you have to push out the air, and then that will obviously hit the microphone and not sound very good on cheaper, like subpar microphones. But this one has an inbuilt pop filter, which basically means that it has foam at the end, which should hopefully stop the air hitting the capsule and ideally make everything sound better. So if I say a sentence like pop pop popsicle, ice ice icicle, test test testing 1 2 3, you kind of get an idea of how this can sound when you're saying certain phrases and certain words with plosives in them. And speaking of pop filters, obviously mine is the default black color, but you can get different options and different colorways for the Wave Neo, which I think you actually get a free option, a free one currently on the Elgato website if you buy Wave Neo directly from that store. And last but definitely not least, we need to do a mechanical keyboard test, which is super important, especially for a microphone like this, because it's designed for streamers, content creators, and people working from home. So if I type on my keyboard like this, ideally the microphone can still hear me nice and clearly because I'm in the front of the capsule, which is where the audio should be being picked up from. But because my keyboard is behind where I'm talking into, the actual microphone should hopefully minimize or at least quieten down the keyboard clicks as much as possible. Although I will say, if you are a creator or you are working from home, don't buy a stupidly loud keyboard like this. Get something that's a little bit quieter. Your audience or your co-workers will thank you. Overall, the audio quality of this microphone is fine. It's more than good enough for content creation or working from home. And obviously, some of you will be asking the question though, or at least thinking, £90 seems like a lot just for a beginner microphone, which I kind of agree. Yes, it is kind of a lot of money when you're first starting out, but you aren't just paying for the microphone. You're paying for the microphone and the software that comes with it, because I've mentioned it a few times in this video already, is that you get access to Elgato Wavelink, and Elgato Wavelink is effectively a digital audio mixing software. So not only does it allow you to add filters and effects and stuff to your microphone, it allows you to also control and balance and set all the volumes of all your other audio sources on your computer in a really manageable, easy, sophisticated way. Obviously, this microphone isn't perfect. It's the entry level of the Elgato microphone, so it is missing a couple of features and a bit of functionality compared to like the Wave 3. So let's kind of compare them side by side so you can decide which one is the better choice for the budget you have. The most obvious difference between Wave Neo and Wave 3 is going to be the physical differences, because Wave Neo only has one button on it. It's got a mute button and that's it. But Wave 3 has the mute button on top as well as a dial and some lights on the front of it, because that dial allows you to control the actual microphone without needing software. You can change the gain volume, you can change your headphone volume, you can change the mix between your PC sound and your headphone sound, which makes it far easier to control without messing about with the software. Speaking of your audio mix and monitoring and stuff, the Wave 3 can actually have real-time audio monitoring in it, which obviously means you can listen to yourself as you speak so you can hear how you sound, whereas Wave Neo, even though it has a headphone jack on the back, you cannot do that, unfortunately. You can listen to yourself through the Wavelink software, but there's going to be a bit of latency, a bit of delay, which can be a little bit annoying because the headphone jack on Wave Neo is basically just designed so that you can hear your PC sound, or if you've got it plugged into your phone or whatever, it's designed just to listen but not have a live feed of the microphone audio. A little bit frustrating, but obviously compromises have to be made. Audio quality wise between these two microphones is basically the same. I'm 90% sure they use the same like capsule in it, so the audio quality should be equal. But on Wave 3 you have something called clip guard, which effectively adds a limiter to your microphone, which means that you're going to find it very difficult to ever be too loud or distort your microphone or hurt your viewers' ears when you get excited or shout or laugh or scream or whatever in your content. Whereas Wave Neo doesn't have that built into it, which sounds a little bit frustrating, but as long as you add filters to your microphone and stuff and set all that up correctly and make sure your gain isn't too loud, you should be fine. And obviously I've made videos about that. You should be following my videos on how to set up all your filters, and you won't even need to use ClipGuard. The only other real difference between these two microphones now is the fact that Wave 3 also has a few accessories you can buy for it. Like you can buy a shock mount to stop vibrations from your desk and arm and stuff reaching your microphone, as well as like a pop filter for it, but obviously this has a pop filter built in. So there's not really too much difference between the audio quality. It's just a couple of little extras that you kind of are paying for, so you have to make the decision whether that like $40-50 more or whatever is worth it for you. Overall, I think the Wave Neo is a fantastic choice for a beginner creator or just for anyone looking to upgrade their audio quality when working from home, because it does everything you kind of need it to do at a relatively affordable price, because it looks good, it sounds good, it's easy to set up and use, which makes it just perfect for anyone who needs a microphone for their setup. If you are interested in picking up a Wave Neo for yourself or one of the other microphones I've mentioned in this video, I'll drop links to everything down below and obviously put in my code here and get a couple of dollars or pounds off your order. And eventually when your microphone arrives, you'll want to set it up properly, so check out these videos I made about microphone filters and getting the most out of your audio, and I will see you all in the next one.